They're having lunch right now in the White House. President Donald Trump and Prime Minister Mark Carney. And they're discussing the 51st statehood of Canada. Or pardon me, Canada, as Corinne Jean-Pierre used to call it. What's up? This is Mark Kaye Saves the Republic. I'm so excited you're here. You know, for somebody who hates Donald Trump, Mark Carney sure was fangirling over him in the White House driveway. He came up to the north entrance of the White House, pulled into the driveway, got out of the SUV, shook President Donald Trump's hand, and man, you'd have thought he was meeting a rock star because, well, he was. President Donald Trump, a political rock star, and even if you need to act tough when you're running for office, even if you need to talk tough when you're trying to get elected, even if you need to smack talk the President of the United States when you're in Ottawa or whenever you're in, wherever you happen to be hanging out in Canada, what doesn't matter. What happens is you've got people who are, oh, wait a minute. Hold on. We may be having an issue. Hang on. I got to do one thing right. We're having one little issue technically, but I think I can fix it. You just give me 2 seconds. One. And this is what happens when you're your own audio, video engineer, everything. Let's see if that works. Let's see if that may have fixed the issue. That may have fixed the problem. We were having a problem. It appears that we will not be having a problem in just a minute. Hopefully, if I did everything right, let me just reload. I want to make sure that we're broadcasting to all of our live streaming partners to make sure that everybody is able to get the Mark Kaye Saves the Republic live stream, because I know it's a valuable commodity and it's a desired commodity. It's something that people enjoy. It's something that people want to watch. It's something that people take time out of their day and schedule into their day so that they don't miss it. And if for whatever reason, what is happening now? We're gonna keep trying. I think we're good to go. We're gonna keep trying. We're gonna, you know what? Oh, there we go. Perfect. All right, we're up. We're up on Rumble. We apologize for any delays that you might have had, but it's working now. Anyway, listen, we appreciate you being here. First of all, before we get into Mark Carney coming into you want to talk about the Lion's Den. You want to talk about somebody walking into a hostile environment. President Donald Trump, for years now, has trolled Canada, or Canada, as Corinne Jean-Pierre calls it. He's trolled Justin Trudeau, who was the former prime minister before he got ousted. And look, Donald Trump is... Yesterday, we played that J.D. Vance clip where J.D. Vance said that President Donald Trump is basically the leader of the Democrat Party. President Donald Trump is basically in charge of Canada as well. Because think about what happened. When Donald Trump brought Justin Trudeau, demanded, beckoned, summoned for Justin Trudeau to come to Mar-a-Lago so many months ago, Justin Trudeau showed up. He said some really weird things about Canada being so dependent on the United States of America. President Donald Trump then referred to him as the governor of the 51st state. And that weakness that Justin Trudeau showed in front of President Donald Trump resonated back home with his Canadian voters or whatever, and they ousted him. Literally what happened was his staff, his government turned on him. And they said, man, you are just spineless and lily-livered and not the right leader for Canada. And so they booted him. And that was all because of President Donald Trump. President Donald Trump didn't like Justin Trudeau. He wanted a new leader who he felt he could deal with. And so he got rid of him. And then what happened was the tariffs, the tariff talk, the tough tariffs, the 100% reciprocal tariffs placed on Canada, the back and forth about Donald Trump saying we don't want any automobiles made in Canada, and all that stuff. And what happened was Pierre Poilievre, who was supposed to be the conservative leader of Canada, who was supposed to rise up and take over, he lost, man. He lost big time. And Mark Carney became the new prime minister of Canada. And Donald Trump basically pointed that out to me. He said, look, you did a great job in the debate. You did a great job in the campaign. I feel like I had a lot to do with it.
When you consider what Mr. Carney just said, that Canada is not for sale, does this make the discussion a little more difficult to start on?
No, not at all. No, not at all. No, time will tell. It's only time.
Hold on, that's not it. It's this one here. Hang on, I want to go. It's right here.
It's a great honor to have Prime Minister Mark Carney with us. As you know, just a few days ago, he won a very big election in Canada. And I think I was probably the greatest thing that happened to him, but I can't take full credit. His party was losing by a lot, and he ended up winning. So I really want to congratulate him. It was probably one of the greatest comebacks in the history of politics maybe even greater than mine. But I want to just congratulate you. That was a great election, actually. We were watching it with interest, and I think Canada chose a very talented person, a very good person, because we spoke before the election quite a few times. And it's an honor to have you at the White House and the Oval Office. And you see the new and improved Oval Office as it becomes more and more beautiful with love. We handle it with great love and 24-karat gold. That always helps too. Right? But it's been a lot of fun going over some of the beautiful pictures that were stored in the vaults that were for many, many years, in some cases over 100 years. They were stored in vaults of the great presidents, or almost great presidents, all having a reason for being up, every one of them. So it's very interesting. But I just want to congratulate you, and ran a really great race. I watched the debate. I thought you were excellent, and I think we have a lot of things in common. We have some tough points to go over, and that'll be fine. But we're going to also be discussing Ukraine, Russia, the war, because Mark wants it ended as quickly as I do. I think it has to end.
Donald Trump has a knack of taking somebody who he's talked badly about, or who he's insulted, or who has insulted him, bringing him into his home and making him feel immediately at ease, and complimenting him and saying, look, this guy did a great job. I mean, he won the election, so you have to give him some credit. And President Donald Trump, no matter what he thinks about somebody's individual politics, always admires and appreciates a winner. And this guy won. And Donald Trump, of course, is taking the credit for his winning. But again, he's probably not too far off. One of the best ways to rally somebody, or really rally a country together, or a party together, or a group of individuals together, is by providing them with a common enemy. That's exactly how the country was made. This country was born by a group of rabble-rousing patriots rallying the rest of the country around a common enemy. That common enemy was King George III and England and the crown and oppressive taxes and the lack of freedom that they had. So they had a common enemy. They knew it was England. They knew they only had one thing to do. That was to declare independence, fight a revolution, and make their own country, their own sovereign nation, which is what they did. Very powerful. Very powerful. In the Civil War, they did the same thing. You had the southern states who seceded from the Union because they had a common enemy, and that was the oppressive northern part of the country that was anti-slavery. It almost destroyed the country, but Abraham Lincoln brought it back together. Same thing happened in World War II. The common enemy, Adolf Hitler. The common enemy, the Nazi Party. It's over and over again. And President Donald Trump was able to defeat Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden multiple times. And the reason he was able to do that was because he touted them as the common enemy of the United States of America, of freedom, of liberty, of everything that this country was designed for. And they were, which is great, but you need to illustrate that to people, and you did a great job. And Mark Carney made Donald Trump out to be this boogeyman, which is how he rose to power in Canada. So Donald Trump is right. He does owe him a lot. But he said, look, regardless, we got a lot to talk about, and we're going to talk about it today. We're going to hash it all out.
We're going to be friends with Canada. Regardless of anything, we're going to be friends with Canada. Canada is a very special place to me. I know so many people that live in Canada. My parents had relatives that lived in Canada, my mother in particular. And I love Canada. I have a lot of respect for the Canadians. Wayne Gretzky, I mean, how good, the great one.
Yeah, he loves Wayne Gretzky. Canada's fine. It's all right. I got relatives there too. They're all right. And but Canada is one of those. It's one of those countries that is very hard to pinpoint. They're not really a sovereign nation, but probably not by any fault of their own. They're kind of like a barnacle. They're just sitting up there they call it America's hat. And what happens is you have the United States of America, which is this all-powerful, all-consuming nation. The world global superpower, economic stronghold, military just dominance. This is the country that everybody wants to come to. This is the country where everybody wants to be. And Canada sits up there, and they're kind of like, America light. No one's really sure if they're part of the British Crown. No one's really sure if they're independent of the British Crown, but they don't have a military because they don't need one, because we've got one. And their economy is good. But as their prime minister pointed out, their economy is basically, it's dependent on us. They buy more stuff from us than any other country. And if they're not able to do that anymore, that's going to be a serious problem for them. And Donald Trump knows it. And that's why Donald Trump repeatedly says they should be the 51st state. In fact, he was asked about that. in the press conference in the Oval Office with Mark Carney, and Donald Trump did not back down one bit.
President, you had said that Canada should become the 51st state. Were you joking?
No. Well, I still believe that, but it takes two to tango, right? But no, I do. I mean, I believe it would be a massive tax cut for the Canadian citizens. You get free military, you get tremendous medical cares and other things. There would be a lot of advantages, but it would be a massive tax cut. And it's also a beautiful, as a real estate developer, I'm a real estate developer at heart. When you get rid of that artificially drawn line, somebody drew that line many years ago with like a ruler, just a straight line right across the top of the country. When you look at that beautiful formation when it's together, I'm a very artistic person, but when I looked at that beauty, I said that's the way it was meant to be. But I do feel it's much better for Canada, but we're not going to be discussing that unless somebody wants to discuss it. I think that there are tremendous benefits to the Canadian citizens, tremendously lower taxes, free military, which honestly we give you essentially anyway because we're protecting Canada if you ever had a problem. But I think it would really be a wonderful marriage because it's two places that get along very well. They like each other a lot.
Mark Carney, by the way, trying his best to get a word in edgewise. You can't cut Donald Trump off in his own office, by the way. That doesn't work very well. You just talk to Vladimir Zelensky. He'll tell you all about how that goes. But Mark Carney eventually said, look, we're not for sale. We're not the United States of America. You can shop all you want. You can look all you want, but we're not for sale. Donald Trump said, never say never. It was a back and forth. It was quite humorous. But Donald Trump said, look, we're going to be talking about a lot of things. We're going to be talking about tariffs because that's important. We're going to be talking about the military, and we're going to be talking about America really working and living and being and existing kind of economically free from Canada.
What would it take to get the tariffs off of Canada?
Well, we'll be talking about different things. Like, we want to protect our automobile business, and so does Mark. But we want to make the automobiles, and we want to, we have a tremendous abundance of energy, more than any country. We have, just in Alaska alone, ANWR's been reopened now. ANWR's probably the largest find anywhere in the world. They say it's larger than Saudi Arabia. I don't know, but it's a lot. But we have tremendous amounts of energy. Other countries don't. We're both lucky in that way. They have energy. We have energy. We have more than we can ever use and more than we could ever sell, actually, and you have the same thing. So we're two countries that are very lucky. If you look at China, they don't have that. It's a big disadvantage. Other countries, most countries don't have. Most countries don't have that. So Canada and us, we have a lot of advantages over other places.
Yeah, and he said, "Look, we love Canada, but we don't do that much business with Canada. The way that Canada works is, and yes, we do buy a lot. They're a big trading partner for us, but they buy everything from us, and we buy a little bit from them." So if we close the border, if we stop with the tariffs, it's going to impact Canada a lot more than it will us. We are, as Donald Trump said, self-sufficient. We could, if we need to, just make everything here. I mean, it might cost us a little bit more here and there, but we could do it. Canada doesn't offer us anything that we can't get on our own. It's not like the rare earths minerals that they get from Ukraine or from other countries. There's nothing in Canada, whether it's lumber, whether it's steel, whether it's energy, whether it's automobiles, whether it's maple syrup. We've got maple syrup in New Hampshire. We've got maple syrup in Vermont. I think we've even got it in Connecticut. We could do fine. Or you know what? We just cut out the syrup altogether because it's just liquid sugar.
During the campaign, Prime Minister Carney talked about the American vitriol. How do you react if Canada decided not to shop in the American store as much as before and decided to partner with other countries?
Well, we don't do much business with Canada from our standpoint. They do a lot of business with us. We're at like 4%. And usually those things don't last very long. We have great things, great product. The kind of product we sell, nobody else can sell.
Yeah. So if you're Canada and you're going to sit out the opportunity to shop in the United States of America and instead import goods and services from elsewhere like China or India or the UK or wherever, then first of all, it's going to be much more expensive for you and it's not going to last that long. because eventually everybody's going to realize the smarter move is for you to drop your tariffs, come to some kind of trade agreement, and start importing goods and services from the United States one more time.
Can you tell us a bit more about the deal that you've reached with the Houthis that you
No, it's
mentioned?
not a deal.
Oh, that's the deal with the Houthis. Hang on, we'll get to that here in just a minute. There was one more. Here it is. We love Canada.
When you consider what Mr. Carney just said, that Canada is not for sale, does this make the discussion a little more difficult to start on?
No, not at all. No, not at all. No, time will tell. It's only time. But I say never. I've had many things that were not doable, and they ended up being doable, and only doable in a very friendly way. But if it's to everybody's benefit, Canada loves us and we love Canada. That's, I think, the number one thing that's important. But we'll see. I mean, over time, we'll see what happens.
The big disadvantage, of course, to Canada becoming the 51st state is that they're all liberal. I mean, it's like the majority of the country is liberal, but like lunatic, socialist, left-wing liberal. And so that would be bad, because that would give us, if Canada were the 51st state, that would give us 2 new very liberal senators. It would give us a whole bunch of liberal voters, and it might ruin the Republican Party forever. Now, Canada also is larger than the United States in land mass, so I can't imagine it would just become the 51st state. There are 10 provinces encompassed in Canada, not to mention the Yukon and the Northwestern Territories. So really, there's 12 different areas geographically. And yes, the Yukon and the Northwestern Territories, they don't really, I mean, it's like just barren wasteland with a couple polar bears and some penguins. But the fact of the matter is, it wouldn't just be one big state. It would be probably 6, 7, maybe even 10 new states. You might even combine a couple here and there. I don't think it's going to happen, but I do know this. Mark Carney is facing a massive revolution, if you will, in some of the Western states, which are typically the most conservative. The states that border Montana, in the Dakotas, places like Alberta, first of all. Alberta is one of the most conservative places you'll see on the face of the planet. Alberta, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and British Columbia are all fairly conservative. British Columbia may be the least of all those. And Alberta has consistently said, we are happy to join the United States of America. We don't like Canada. We don't like the direction this country is going. We don't like that the socialists continue to the socialists continue to dominate in the polls and ruin our country and shut down our people and our borders and mandate that we lock ourselves down during COVID and take away our guns and take away our bank accounts and won't let us park our trucks in the Capitol and honk all day. We don't like that. We want we want the Bill of Rights for ourselves. We want a government that is going to protect us and not provoke us. And that's exactly what Alberta wants. So there are problems in any country, no matter how great they tell you things are being. Donald Trump did have a few words for Mark Carney's predecessor.
I won't say this about Mark, but I didn't like his predecessor. I didn't like a person that worked. She was terrible, actually. She was a terrible person. And she really hurt that deal very badly because she tried to take advantage of the deal and she didn't get away with it. You know what I'm talking about. But we had a bad relationship having to do with the fact that we disagreed with the way they viewed the deal, and we ended it. We ended that relationship pretty much. The USMCA is great for all countries. It's good for all countries. We do have a negotiation coming up over the next year or so to adjust it or terminate it.
Yeah, so they're going to adjust it. They're going to terminate it. They're going to talk about some things. They're going to come up with some new big, beautiful deal. It's not going to happen today, but it is going to happen sometime in the future. And that's what Donald Trump does. In fact, I was just talking about this. I was thinking about maybe writing a new book on this because my last book, Go Trump Yourself, which, by the way, you can still get at gotrumpyourself.com. My last book, Go Trump Yourself, did phenomenally well. People really enjoyed it. And it was a collection of humorous anecdotes of my time following the Donald Trump campaign and interacting with the Trump family, wrapped up in lessons for personal growth and motivation. If you will, it's a book about Donald Trump that teaches you how to be more like Donald Trump so that you can live a longer, richer, happier life. GoTrumpYourself.com. And I was thinking, it may be time to write another one because there are now that I've been able to watch Donald Trump these first few months in the new golden age, there's even more great lessons that you could use. And in fact, if everybody ran their lives and their business more like Donald Trump, if everybody ran their countries more like Donald Trump, there wouldn't be a problem anywhere. We wouldn't have a problem with anything anywhere. But the problem is there are people that don't want to do the work. There are people that are afraid of taking the risk. There are people that want to be coddled. And so they scoff at the power that Donald Trump is able to wield in his business, in his political life, in his family life, in his social life, and online and in the media. And what we're realizing is that there's two types of people in the world: the people that lead and the people that follow. And Donald Trump clearly is a leader. We're not really sure what this Mark Carney is going to be like yet, but we're going to find out for sure. Someone who is not a leader is Jasmine Crockett. Jasmine Crockett, this woman, the other day, Donald Trump mentioned her. In fact, we played a little bit of that Kristen Welker interview. It was Kristen Welker interviewing President Donald Trump again, which, I mean, this woman, for somebody being, Donald Trump is not a huge fan of Kristen Welker. Kristen Welker, not a huge fan of President Donald Trump, but the fact of the matter is he gives her a lot of time. He sat down with her for a lot of interviews, and this one was 90 minutes. This interview was so long that there were even deleted clips. There was a deleted clip about Nancy Pelosi, which I'll play for you here in just a minute. But Jasmine Crockett, you may remember Donald Trump mentioned how in this interview, he goes, there's not a lot of Democrats. In fact, he goes, the Democrats, I don't even know. There's no good ones. In fact, they have this new crazy one named Crockett.
And you know what I can't name? I can't name one Democrat. I mean, I look at the Democrats, they're in total disarray. They have a new person named Crockett. I watched her speak the other day. She's definitely a low IQ person.
Okay, so that's Donald Trump. And he's talking about Jasmine Crockett and how she's definitely a low IQ person. And, a lot of people agree with that because she uses profanity more than, most military men and women that I've met. She is a brash, harsh, profane, representative. She doesn't speak well. She doesn't speak eloquently. She curses. She uses ebonics when she can. She makes fun of men in wheelchairs. She does all kinds of things that you would not look at and say, well, that is clearly a well-educated person. People who use profanity, they do. And yes, sometimes people use it. I've heard Donald Trump use it for dramatic effect. But when you use it as regularly as someone like Jasmine Crockett does, or really, 90% of the Democrats do, it's just a lack of intelligence and a lack of knowledge of the English language and a lack of the ability to express yourself in a way that is, not just demure, but just socially acceptable. Words are the most valuable tool we have in doing whatever we need to do or whatever we want to do. If you can speak well and eloquently and communicate, then you can get your point across and you can do amazing things. If you can't, then you just cuss. And if you cuss, then you're seen as low IQ. And if you're seen as low IQ, Donald Trump mentions it on Meet the Press. And if Donald Trump mentions you on Meet the Press and you're Jasmine Crockett, your life has been made. Your life, Jasmine Crockett, I imagine the most exciting points in Jasmine Crockett's life were when she got elected to Congress, maybe when she got married, because I think she's married, and when, I can't even think of anything else. When Donald Trump called her out on Meet the Press is definitely one of the top 3 moments of her life. And she went on television to try to act like she wasn't ecstatic by it. Listen to this.
Response.
The fact that you just got done engaging in a conversation where we have a president of the United States who has no idea about the oath that he just took on January 20th tells me everything that I need to know. He didn't even have good sense enough in that same interview to say something as simple as, yes, I will follow the Constitution. The thing that actually derived from the oath that he was supposed to take. And he supposedly took an oath, which there's a lot of people that point out that he never put his hand on the Bible, even though he acts as if he could somehow be the Pope. But nevertheless, that oath specifically says that you will defend the Constitution. So the idea that you are now taking the Constitution and, as I said at the DNC, putting it through a paper shredder is a problem. And I think that this should not be partisan. This should be right versus wrong. A lot of the things that this administration is doing, they don't have anything to do with partisanship. This is right versus wrong. And right now, they are consistently wrong.
Okay, now it's always ironic to me when Democrats talk about shredding the Constitution in a paper shredder when they're the ones that had the COVID lockdowns. They're the ones that arrested January 6 protesters who weren't breaking any laws. The Democrats are the ones who sent the FBI out to parent-teacher meetings to intimidate parents. They sent the FBI out to Catholic Latin masses because they thought that for some reason the Catholics at the Latin mass were, I don't know, some kind of crazy lunatics that were going to be a threat to the United States of America. This is the same party that searched the home of their number one political adversary, President Donald Trump. And we found out, of course, now that they authorized deadly force, which makes Merrick Garland potentially a dangerous threat to the president of the United States. And had Donald Trump been there, and had Donald Trump done something to question or stop or not allow the search to go through, Merrick Garland gave orders to use deadly force. So it could have been a much more serious incident than it actually turned out to be. I mean, from a constitutional standpoint, it was very serious. But from a life or death standpoint, it could have been even worse. But Jasmine Crockett, she's out there spewing this garbage. And the fact of the matter is, she's ecstatic. She's beyond herself that Donald Trump mentioned her. What Donald Trump did was he elevated her. Donald Trump mentioning your name, Donald Trump, he doesn't mention all the Democrats. He mentions a handful of them. Crazy Bernie, Nancy Pelosi, and AOC. He talks about them. Gavin Newsom. Those are the ones he talks about regularly. And those people have become world famous. He doesn't even mention Pete Buttigieg, if you'll notice. He doesn't even take the time to elevate Pete Buttigieg. He doesn't talk about, there's other crazy Democrats out there that he doesn't talk about, but he focuses on Nancy Pelosi. He focuses on Bernie Sanders. He focuses on Gavin Newsom and AOC. He doesn't even really mention Chuck Schumer that much because they're friends, longtime friends. They're both from New York. And Chuck Schumer, while he's on the brink of crazy, is nowhere near as crazy. And that's why Donald Trump mentioned Jasmine Crockett. He did it on purpose. He knew that she was going to become next level Democrat. Now that he mentioned her, now that he said they have this new person, Crockett, what he did a couple of things there. What Donald Trump established was he made Jasmine Crockett the center of attention in Democrat land. And everybody's now looking at Jasmine Crockett. Oh, Donald Trump knows who Jasmine Crockett is. Donald Trump mentioned Jasmine Crockett. She's the new face of the Democrat Party. How do we know? Because Donald Trump said so. Donald Trump said the Democrats have a new person. It's Jasmine Crockett. And what that does is that elevates her to a new level in the world of government and politics and media. And he did that on purpose because she's a lunatic. And he doesn't want people thinking that the Democrats have good ideas, because they don't. He doesn't want people thinking that the Democrats are open to working with the other side, because they're not. He doesn't want people thinking anything good about the Democrats. There are Democrats who are low key, who are probably willing to work with Republicans. There are Democrats who don't go out there and cuss every chance they get. There are Democrats who don't act the fool. There are Democrats who don't turn their entire lives into a spectacle, but Donald Trump doesn't want you focused on them. He wants you focused on the crackpots. So Jasmine Crockett is so excited that she just got massive clout because Donald Trump name dropped her. But what she doesn't realize is Donald Trump name dropped her so that everybody can look at her as the face of the Democrat Party and go, oh, hell no, I'm not voting for them. And AOC, who is currently the face of the Democrat Party, she's not going to be friendly with Jasmine Crockett anymore. She's not going to let this new girl from Dallas, Texas come in and take away the position that she's worked hard for. The AOC has worked very, very hard to become the face of the Democrat Party. Now that Nancy Pelosi's basically out of the way, now that Hakeem Jeffries is basically pointless. I mean, think about this. The minority leader of the party is Hakeem Jeffries. Nobody cares about that guy. They care about AOC and now Jasmine Crockett. It doesn't matter that you've been elected minority leader. It doesn't matter that you're just a couple of votes away from being the first African-American Speaker of the House. Nobody cares. They care about the bartender flying around on a private jet who's screaming and yelling about oligarchs, and they care about Jasmine Crockett with her wig and her profane language, who Donald Trump is name dropping on Meet the Press. That's who they care about. And now there's going to be a catfight in the DNC because Jasmine Crockett's going to think that she's too big for her britches because Donald Trump pointed her out on Meet the Press. All 100% premeditated by President Donald Trump. Speaking of Nancy Pelosi, there was a segment in this interview that was cut out. I mean, it was like a 90-minute interview. There were a lot of segments that were probably cut out, but Donald Trump, he likes to talk. He talked forever. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that made it on TV and a lot of stuff that made it on the editing room floor. This clip, surprising nobody, was not featured in the final interview, but it is Donald Trump answering a question about Nancy Pelosi and speaking again about stock trading and insider trading in the House of Representatives.
If I own stock in something and I do a good job and the stock market goes up, I guess I'm profiting. But who really profits is somebody like Nancy Pelosi, who uses inside information. She worked for $175,000 a year, and that's at the high end, and she's worth $150, $200 million. Okay? You ought to look at Nancy Pelosi, and you ought to look at some of these politicians that are stone cold crooks. I was very wealthy when I came in. Being president, I probably cost me money if you really look.
I think we can all guarantee that Donald Trump lost money. He didn't even take a salary. He had all kinds of legal issues that he had to deal with, not legal issues that were self-imposed, but that the Democrats imposed upon him. And it cost him a bundle to run for president and to be president and to run for president again and again, over and over and over again. So much of his own money and expenditures put into his runs for president. And now President Donald Trump is saying, look, Nancy Pelosi's out there making millions. She makes $175,000 a year. And yet somehow she's worth multi-millions worth of dollars. How is that? How is it that all of these stock trading Congress people are so wealthy? And how is it that it's not against the law? There's nobody I know that thinks it's okay for these elected officials to have the knowledge that they have and use it to make themselves rich. And it happens everywhere. It happens in Nancy Pelosi's district. It happens right here in my own district with my own congressman, who, by the way, somebody pointed out to me the other day, they said, Mark Kaye, don't you realize that John Rutherford sold all of his stocks and moved everything to like mutual funds or T-bills or certificates of deposit or whatever? I go, yeah, after he got busted. Yeah. Oh, great. All right. If I made $5 million in 4 years, I'd move mine into some kind of non-traceable security too. I'd want people not looking at me anymore. The only reason he did it is because he got called out by Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz said, look, here's John Rutherford, who somehow made millions of dollars. Here's John Rutherford, who bought Raytheon stock the day that the United States invaded Ukraine.
So one of the committees where people have a lot of information is the Appropriations Committee, because they can view almost any vector of government funding. And so, this is Mr. Rutherford's office. He's on the Ethics Committee and the Appropriations Committee. 152 stock trades. Stocks go through the roof. And, actually bought Raytheon stock the day that Russia invaded Ukraine.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, imagine if every American could make money off of war.
Yeah, that's what we've been dealing with. We deal with it everywhere. It's not just Democrats, it's Republicans. It's not just California. It's here in the north coast of Florida. So this is something that's a big problem, and Donald Trump is bringing attention to it. And yes, there are movements, and AOC is leading the charge on one of them to keep stock trading out of the House of Representatives, to make it illegal for elected officials and their spouses to trade stocks. They want to make it illegal for all elected officials and the people that they're married to trade stocks while they serve in Congress. And yeah, I know people are like, well, what about their kids? Couldn't their kids just do it? What about their grandkids? What about their uncle or their brother? There comes a point where you're going to have to look. There's two ways to do it. Yes, you could legislate the heck out of these people. You could legislate stock trading out of Congress, or you know what you could do? You could just hire better people for the job. You could just elect people who you don't have to worry about. You could just elect people who know the difference between right and wrong and know that it's wrong to use insider information that you get as a member of the House of Representatives or the Senate or the executive branch to invest in stocks that you know are going to go through the roof. It's really baffling to me. It's as simple as that. And yes, we could pass legislation here in the United States of America to keep people like John Rutherford in District 5 from investing in stocks, using the knowledge he has as a member of the Appropriations Committee to make himself rich. We could do that. Or you could just elect somebody who's not going to trade stocks. Somebody like this guy here. We'll have more on that. We'll have more on that coming up. By the way, some people found my secret website, and I appreciate it, by the way. I appreciate, some people are very sleuth-delicious. What's the word? If you're a sleuth, is there an adjective that can be used to describe you? Sleuthful, sleuthiferous. I don't even know. There's got to be some kind of adjective. But for all you super sleuths out there, congratulations on finding my secret website before I was ready to disclose it. And also thank you for the donations. I appreciate it. Anyway, look, more on that at a later date. Let's get back to this. So President Donald Trump is now calling out Nancy Pelosi. He's calling out Nancy Pelosi for illegal stock trades. He goes, something ought to be done about that. And Jasmine Crockett is out there and she's saying, oh my God, Donald Trump is low IQ. But meanwhile, she's so ecstatic. She just can't believe that Donald Trump called her out. And she's really excited about that. In the meantime, there's a lot going on with the rest of the President Donald Trump administration. And one of the big things is there's an executive order that President Donald Trump signed regarding gain of function research. Remember gain of function research, or GORE? I don't know if anyone ever called it GORE, but we should have called it GORE. If we weren't calling it GORE, we should have called it GORE. But gain of function, or GOFRE. Gain of function. Yeah, GOFRE. That would have been a great name. He signed an executive order basically saying no more.
The first relates to gain of function research. Gain of function research is a type of biomedical research where pathogens are adulterated, viruses are adulterated to make them more potent or to change the way that they function. Many people believe that gain of function research was one of the key causes of the COVID pandemic that struck us in the last decade. What this executive order does, first of all, it provides powerful new tools to enforce the ban on federal funding for gain of function research abroad. It also strengthens other oversight mechanisms related to that issue and creates an overarching strategy to ensure that biomedical research in general is being conducted safely and in a way that ultimately protects human health more.
It's a big deal. It could have been that we wouldn't have had the problem we had.
A lot of people say that, sir.
If we had this done earlier.
Yeah, that's Donald Trump with the executive order against gain of function research and funding of gain of function research. And Secretary Kennedy, RFK Jr., spoke out about Anthony Fauci specifically and gain of function and how it changed the entire world, not for the better.
As you pointed out, gain of function studies the kind of science that is designed to make microbes and pathogens more virulent, more transmissible, and more deadly. It was in this country, they started doing it in 1947, the military and the intelligence agencies, in order to develop bioweapons. In 1969, President Nixon banned it all, shut down Fort Detrick, shut down all the labs. That ban, and then signed the Bioweapons Convention. That ban lasted till 2001. And after the anthrax attacks, Anthony Fauci essentially restarted the arms race and the bioweapons arms race, and did it under the pretension of developing vaccines, because of the same science that you develop bioweapons and vaccines.
And basically, we turned into COVID. I know he's difficult to listen to sometimes, so we try to give him, as much time as we possibly can. Listen, there's a lot of stuff happening in President Donald Trump's administration. Everybody's working. He's working to ban gain of function, to protect us from any kind of pandemic in the future, any kind of, not just a pandemic, but a bioweapon, which is exactly what it seems more and more we were dealing with. He's got people at the border. And Pam Bondi, by the way, speaking of bioweapons, speaking of weapons of mass destruction, she said something about fentanyl in China, which I think is very apropos. And I've never heard anyone describe it this way. And Pam Bondi, who's working with the Department of Homeland Security, working with Secretary Noem, working with all these people, they're trying to secure the border for several reasons. It's not just that they don't want people coming in like MS-13 gang members and Tren de Aragua and rapists and murderers and all that kind of stuff. It's they don't want terrorists coming in, and they don't want, illegal drugs coming in. And the illegal drugs are flowing in from China in the form of fentanyl. And Pam Bondi she stated something about fentanyl, which I've never heard anyone say, but I think it's a very accurate description. And if they continue to if they continue to characterize fentanyl in this way, I think it will have a much more dramatic effect on the United States of America and her partners who are working, hopefully, to try to stop the flow of fentanyl over the border.
Yeah, and Larry, it's interesting. People in China don't get addicted to fentanyl because they're shipping it to our country to kill 18 to 34-year-olds. 75,000 Americans are dying every year because of fentanyl. It is a weapon of mass destruction, in my opinion. It's destroying lives. It's costing our taxpayers trillions of dollars. And it's killing our kids, 18 to 34, number one cause of death. The precursors are all made in China. It's shipped to Mexico, into our country, or through now India, other routes, ports of entry, USPS, coming into our country, and they're killing our kids, and it's got to stop. And it takes 1 grain of fentanyl. I put it in here to show you earlier. You can barely see it. It looks like 1 grain. This is salt, not fentanyl. 1 grain is all it takes to kill an American citizen. And that's what these people are doing.
All right, so what she's saying now is that fentanyl isn't just a drug. It's not just a party time thing that people are lacing their other drugs with. It's not just that. It's a weapon of mass destruction that is being utilized by a foreign adversary to decimate our young, battle-ready population. Think about that. She said it's 18 to 34-year-olds. Fentanyl is being developed in China, and they're shipping it out. There's no fentanyl deaths in China. If you go to the emergency rooms in China, there's no kids laying on gurneys, on breathing machines because of fentanyl. There's no people dying or being, going to parties, taking a pill and dying from fentanyl overdose. That doesn't happen in China. Why? It's distributed outside of China, into Mexico, into the United States of America, because they know that 18 to 34-year-olds will be targeted, will use it, and will die. And when you're fighting a war with somebody, 18 to 34-year-olds, well, those are the people that you send into battle. 18 to 34-year-olds are the ones that sign up for the military. 18 to 34-year-olds are the ones who are the most youthful and spry and physically fit. 18 to 34-year-olds are your fighting force. At 34, you're starting to think about retirement. At 44, you become Secretary of Defense if you're Pete Hegseth. But 18 to 34, that is prime. That is our fighting force. That is our first line of defense. And how do you attack them? China ships out fentanyl. It gets a little tiny bit of it, gets laced in with some other drug, and all of a sudden, you're seeing the massive death that we see here in the United States of America. And it's all a weapon of mass destruction. It all seems to be premeditated, and it's something that has to stop. And it's something that Donald Trump and Pam Bondi and everyone else are trying to stop. They're trying to stop it with these strict border laws. They're trying to stop it by getting people to leave. They're trying to stop it by taking people out of the country. And unfortunately, the Democrats don't want any of that to happen. The Democrats want all of these illegals to stay here. They want the borders to continue to be open. They don't want, apparently, the fentanyl to stop coming into the country. I'm not really sure why. Representative Escobar, who's from, where's she from? I think, hang on, I'll get it. I want to make sure that we understand where these people are from. Veronica Escobar is from El Paso, Texas. She's a Democrat. And Veronica Escobar, she went to New York University. That explains a lot. When was she there? 50. Oh, we may have been there at the same time. Oh no, she would have been a senior when I was a freshman. We wouldn't have hung out at all. But anyway, Representative Veronica Escobar from El Paso, she's so angry that an illegal woman was deported from the United States of America and opted to take her children with her. Not just one, but couple moms. They're in the United States of America illegally. Their kids are here. Their kids are American citizens, but they're 2, 4, 7 years old, something like that. So when ICE comes and says, "Hi, Mom, you're being deported," she said, "Not without my children." And I said, "Okay, that's your right. Your right as a mom of minors is to take your children with you. You can't stay. Your children can stay with a relative or somebody else. If you want to get a guardianship, whatever, you can put them in the custody of the state. Or, we won't separate you." That's the whole philosophy of the Trump administration. It's not to separate families. So if mom's getting deported and the kids want to go with, or she wants the kids to go with, that is her right. And these moms chose to take their children with her. And Veronica Escobar is furious at Kristi Noem for not separating children from her parents. Could you imagine if they did separate the children from their parents. Luckily, Kristi Noem is one smart cookie and is able to handle these crazy left-wing lunatics.
Funding out. Where is?
I'm sorry, that is that's the wrong leftist lunatic. Hold on, I got it. Here it is. Here's Representative Escobar.
I'd like to now focus on U.S. citizens who were deported. In fact, 3 children so far, likely more children. One of those children with cancer who was deported without the medication necessary to address that child's cancer. Again, a U.S. citizen. The lawyers have said that they were not given, the family was not given an opportunity to make plans for the kids. And so they were deported, essentially, again, U.S. citizens. I have a question about the forms that ICE is supposed to utilize when engaging with parents who have children, the parents who are being deported and the U.S. citizen children. One of those forms is ICE Form 71-078, or the Caregiver Designation at Arrest form. Were any of the individuals who were deported, who had U.S. citizen children deported with them, were they given an opportunity to sign that form?
When these, the specific cases that you're referencing with these children, it was the parents' choice to take their children with them.
Did ICE
which it is the
follow
policy
through
of the
on the
Trump
policy?
administration to keep families together.
Ma'am, reclaiming my time. I told you at the top of this, ma'am, reclaiming my time. I said that the questions are really simple, yes or no. Was that form used in any of those cases?
I will get back to you on that specific form.
Perfect.
I don't know the number, but I do know these mothers went on the record.
The second form, ma'am, reclaiming my time. Ma'am, please, ma'am, reclaiming my time. I'd like you to avoid the filibuster so I can get to all my questions, please.
Why does she speak like she's a 3rd grade teacher or a kindergarten teacher? Well, I have to check. What is she? Was she a teacher? She seems like she was a kindergarten teacher before she ran for whatever office it was. But she's like, look, did they fill out these forms? And Kristi Noem's like, I don't know if they filled out the forms, but they didn't want to be separated from their children. And our policy is not to separate people from their children. Ma'am, I'm reclaiming my time. Also, did you notice how she mentioned cancer a couple of times? Like Donald Trump gave the kid cancer. That's what she's trying to make you think, that Donald Trump gave this child cancer. Donald Trump deported children, one of them with cancer, and he deported them. Like it's his fault. Neither one of those things is his fault. Neither one of those things is Kristi Noem's fault. It's really nobody's fault. The woman was here illegally. She left. She took her kid with her. I don't understand the problem. Nobody was arrested. Nobody went to jail. Everybody's still together. I mean, I don't understand. I don't understand. But again, I'm not a Democrat. I can't think like they do. Speaking of which, we'll get to what's her name? Purple hair from Connecticut or from Vermont. DeLauro. So this is Congresswoman DeLauro, and she's peppering Kristi Noem because this was Kristi Noem's day. Because what happens is when you're a secretary of one of the departments in the administration, when you sit on in the cabinet, Health and Human Services, for example, transportation, all of these people, periodically you go to the Hill and you sit in front of the committee that hired you, whatever the Homeland, what is it? It could be like the Transportation Committee or the Homeland Security or Foreign or Defense Committee, all that kind of stuff. The Budget Committee. You sit before these people and you answer questions. And it was Kristi Noem's day to go and answer questions in front of the committee. She was asked by Representative DeLauro about FEMA and why Donald Trump claims that FEMA is a bad organization. Why Donald Trump claims that FEMA should be shut down. Why are you working against the Federal Emergency Management Administration? What's so wrong with FEMA? And of course, Kristi Noem was totally prepared to answer that question, and she did.
Funding out. Where is the evidence of the failure of FEMA?
Congresswoman, we still have claims open from Hurricane Katrina. We have fire claims that are still unpaid to people who said they were due them 7 to 8 to 10 years old. They have never been paid by FEMA. So one of the worst things that the federal government can do is to stand up in front of the American public and say, we will be there, we will walk alongside you in the most horrible time of your life, and then never follow through on it.
Hurricane Katrina, for those of you that don't know or don't remember, was in 2005. 2005. It is now 2025. 20 years ago, people filed claims for Hurricane Katrina. And 20 years ago, those claims did not get filled. And in the last 20 years, FEMA has not done anything for those people who filed those claims from Hurricane Katrina in 2025. I mean, that is just... where is the evidence? Where's the evidence that FEMA's done anything good? Don't you remember just last year when FEMA representatives were telling their staff, avoid houses with Trump flags? Why? Well, it was an election year. Avoid houses with Trump flags. We're not going to help those Trump voters. If they've got a Trump yard sign, they don't get FEMA protection. More weaponization of the federal government against its own citizens by Joe Biden, by Kamala Harris, by the Democrats. There's so much evidence about FEMA being just terrible, horrible, no good, and very bad. Another thing that's happening is, I don't know if you heard what happened at Newark Airport yesterday, but apparently the Transportation Safety Administration and the Department of Transportation, I didn't realize how bad it was. Now, I know that Pete Buttigieg was horrible at his job. I know that he wasn't a very good mayor of South Bend. People always complain about him. I know that he wasn't even really a good candidate. And he was he was just awful. He was just an awful Secretary of Transportation. And we know that now because of all the failures that are going on in our transportation system, most notably our air traffic control system. Yesterday at Newark Airport, the entire radar and radio system went out for like 30 to 90 seconds or something. And it was mass panic. Newark is one of the busiest airports in the world, in the country and in the world. It's right there by New York. It's New York, LaGuardia, Kennedy, very busy air traffic area. And the radio and radar both went out at Newark because of the antiquated system. And Secretary Duffy's like, this is just bad.
So we have really old infrastructure in America. It hasn't been updated in the last 30, 40 years. This should have been dealt with in the last administration. They did nothing. So the primary communication line went down. The backup line didn't fire. And so for 30 seconds, we lost contact with air traffic.
That's a big problem, don't you think?
It is. Now, were planes going to crash? No, they have communication devices. They can see other air traffic like GPS in the airplanes. But it's a sign that we have a frail system in place, and it has to be fixed. But by the way, so there's delays now at Newark. Well, if you're driving down the road at 70 miles an hour and you get white paint in your windshield, you slow down. So we've slowed the traffic down at Newark. There's a runway that's under construction, and our primary goal is to make sure people are safe. And so when you have an incident like this, both lines now work, Laura, but when you have an incident like this, you want to make sure that people are safe. And so you just have less departures out of the airport until we feel comfortable and safe that the system isn't going to go down again.
So the system went down. And what does that mean? It means we're not departing. Like United, I think, pulled all their flights. They're like, we can't fly into this airport. It doesn't work. The airport is broken. One of the largest, most populated, most well-traveled airports in the entire world, and it doesn't work. We tried to get the tower on the radio, but we couldn't for 30 seconds. 30 seconds is a long time when you're in a plane and you're barreling toward a runway at, 300, 400 miles an hour with a fuselage full of passengers. It's a long time. Radios weren't working. Radar wasn't working. Nobody knew what was going on. Dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. And it's all because of the prior administrations. It's all because Joe Biden and Pete Buttigieg were not doing their jobs. We don't really know what Pete Buttigieg did. In fact, the longer that Pete Buttigieg is out of office, when he was there, we didn't know what he did. Remember, we tried when there was the train crash and the train wreck in East Palestine, and J.D. Vance was still a senator, and he was out there in Ohio in his waders. He was walking around in the water. He was looking at all the oil and all the stuff in the water. He was drawing attention to it. He was trying to hand out bottles of creek water to elected officials. They weren't drinking it. He was trying to get everybody to focus on what was going on in East Palestine, Ohio. J.D. Vance did an amazing service to those folks. He got President Donald Trump to come out there when he wasn't even president. Donald Trump came out to East Palestine on his dime, flew out there, met with the people, talked to the people, listened to the people, handed out hats to the people, signed autographs for the people, brought water to the people, said, we're going to try to do whatever we can for the people. Pete Buttigieg came a week later, didn't do nothing. Joe Biden never went. Pete Buttigieg was Secretary of Transportation when the systems went down at the ports and the ships were hanging out at sea and we couldn't get all of our Christmas presents because they were all on cargo ships sitting outside of California and the truck drivers were on strike. They weren't going they couldn't get anywhere near the ports anyway. It was a horrible system. Pete Buttigieg was totally unqualified for that job. The only reason they gave it to him was to keep him, was to get him out of the presidency. And now he's ruined any chance he has for any future position because he did that so poorly. But we've got Sean Duffy, who's come in and realized and is letting everybody know this is how bad it was. This is how bad it is. We've got condition critical all over the country, and we're going to do our best now. We're going to do our best now to fix it. Donald Trump's entire staff is working around the clock to fix all of the problems that Joe Biden created for this country. Donald Trump's staff is working around the clock to do everything they can to undo the damage done by the Democrats. And it's not just the damage done by the Democrats. It's the damage that's continuing to be done by the Democrats. The Democrat Party, since they don't hold that many elected offices, they're not in the White House, thank God. They don't retain control of the Senate, thank God. They have a slim minority. They're really close to control in the House of Representatives, but not yet. Not yet. That's not happening yet. This is all what's going on in the United States of America. The Democrats, if they get anywhere closer to power, we are cooked. Donald Trump is cooked. He knows that. He's going to get impeached. We've already seen this guy that looks like, a bad SNL skit, looks like Chris Kattan or Jimmy Fallon, try to impeach President Donald Trump on 7 ridiculous things. This is what they're going to do. They're going to continue to do it. And so the judges now, these district court judges, they're the only ones that have any power. And they're abusing their power and they're using their power to try to stop Donald Trump from deporting people. Why? Not really sure why, but they like all the illegal criminal gang member aliens here in the United States of America. Hey, to each their own. I like them in CCOT, but the Democrats like them. The Democrats like him out here. So Donald Trump came up with a new system. He's like, look, if you're not going to let me use the Alien Enemies Act, Supreme Court, I'm just going to pay these people to leave. We're going to have you self-deport, and we're going to give you money to do it.
What we thought we'd do is a self-deport, where we're going to pay each one a certain amount of money, and we're going to get them a beautiful flight back to where they came from, and they have a period of time. And if they make it, we're going to work with them so that maybe someday, with a little work, they can come back in if they're good people, if they're the kind of people that we want in our company, industrious people that could love our country. And if they're not, they won't. But it will give them a path to becoming, to coming back into the country. If they miss that limit, they're going to be taken out of our country. And they will never get a path to come back in. And it'll be a much tougher process. And it's called self-deportation. And by doing that, you're talking about so many millions of people.
I mean, what Donald Trump has done now is he's found a workaround. And it's it's a genius workaround. What happens now is that you have you've got Donald Trump saying, look, the Supreme Court says I can't use the Alien Enemies Act to deport these people. All right, you know what we're going to do? We're going to pay them. We're going to pay them and they're going to self-deport. We're going to give them a plane ticket back to wherever they came from. We're going to give them $1,000 when they get there so they can get their life back together. We won't have to arrest them so that then they can apply to come here legally. But if they don't self-deport, we will come after them. We will arrest them. We will deport them. And then they won't be able to ever come here illegally. And it's a remarkable system. And when you think about it, it's better for everybody. And it has so many advantages. Here's Kristi Noem to explain again the intricacies of this and why it is a preferred system of deportation for everybody involved.
These illegal aliens that are in our country have the opportunity to go on the CBP Home app, and we will facilitate them finding their way back to their countries. We will pay for their plane ticket. When they get there, we will verify they are who they said they are and that they are, in fact, back home. And then they will be paid $1,000 as an incentive to go there and to be able to help facilitate their housing or their clothing or their food for the period of time that they're back in their country until they can get themselves settled. And listen, Sean, that's really what this whole situation is about. We spend about $17,000 arresting, detaining, and deporting an illegal alien right now today. If we have the opportunity to purchase a plane ticket and send someone home with a stipend like this, it saves us thousands and thousands of dollars. And it also is a much safer situation for officers and for those in communities. And it gives that illegal an opportunity to come back to the United States of America. Remember, if they wait until we arrest them and deport them, they don't ever get the chance to come back to the United States. They don't ever get a chance at the American dream. So those individuals that are here illegally need to realize this is their opportunity to do things the right way.
This is a win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win scenario. If you're illegal, if you're here illegally and you're not a criminal, not a gang member, you're not in Tren de Aragua or MS-13, if you're not Abrego Garcia, and you decide, I'm going to go on the app and I'm going to declare that I'm self-deporting, what happens immediately is you get a plane ticket paid for by the United States of America. The plane ticket will take you back to Mexico, Venezuela, El Salvador. I don't know where you're from, but we'll get you back there. Then when you land and you get resettled and you prove that you're there, you will get $1,000. 1,000 American dollars, which is way more valuable in Mexico, Venezuela, El Salvador, or wherever you come from than it is here in the United States of America. $1,000 in any third world Latin American country is going to go a lot farther than it will in Chicago or New York or Dallas, Texas, or Miami. You're going to be living in the lap of luxury. Okay, maybe not, but you'll be at least able to get a place to stay, get some food, get some clothes, maybe find a job. You'll be more secure there than you are here. And then, since you have been flown home, been given money to get back on your feet so you're not just wandering around on the street homeless, you can then reapply to enter the United States legally. You can go through the legal immigration process, what millions of people, including myself, have done. You can sign up for your green card. You can come on a student visa. You can come on a permanent visa, immigrant. If you've got family here, you can maybe get, you can seek asylum, or you can, you can claim family resident status, whatever it is. There's all kinds of different things you can do, but you can do it legally, and you could come back to the United States of America for good. Now, that's the benefit to the illegal immigrant. The benefit to the United States is if we send Tom Homan and Kristi Noem and ICE out to go get these people, to hunt them down, arrest them, detain them, and send them back on a plane, and then let's not forget the legal fees that are associated with it, it averages $17,000 per person. Every single person getting off that plane and getting marched into CCOT in El Salvador is $17,000 in taxpayer money. If we fly them out and give them $1,000, we're saving $15,000 per person. $15,000 per person who self-deports. And our ICE agents and our Border Patrol and our police officers and everybody who's involved in the apprehension of these many times dangerous criminals, all of those folks, they are not put in harm's way. They don't have to kick down doors. They don't have to worry about getting shot. They don't have to show up with Kevlar vests and canisters of tear gas or whatever else they have. They don't have to go to nightclubs in the middle of the night not knowing what they're going to find inside. They don't have to interact with these people. They are safer. It's safer for the illegal immigrant, and it's safer for the United States law enforcement officer. So there's safety, there's security, it's much more economically viable for everybody. I mean, it's a win-win-win-win-win. And all of this because Donald Trump is working around this ridiculous policy that the Supreme Court handed down, saying he can no longer use the Alien Enemies Act to remove threats from the United States of America, when clearly that's what they are. But Donald Trump will, where there's a will, there's a way, and there's a will, and he will find a way, and he will continue to find a way, because that's just the kind of guy he is. That's just he knows that there's people out here who are dangerous. He knows that there's people out here who need to go home. And Caroline Leavitt, she's saying, the media, they're just as guilty. It's not just the Democrats in Congress. It's not just the Democrat judges. It's not just the Democrats in the Supreme Court or the House of Representatives or these district courts. It's the Democrats in the media. They're really the worst.
It's sad, truly, that we have to put mugshots of illegal alien criminals on the front lawn of the White House in order for the mainstream media to actually cover these stories. They should be covering them, but because they do not, we will put them right in their faces. And it drew a lot of attention, as it should. Last week at the White House, I met with angel mothers whose names your audience may not know, because they are living in silence. They are living in a tragic circumstance where their children children were taken away from them by illegal alien criminals. And no politician, they told me, until Donald Trump cared about their stories, cared about listening to them. So we had them at the White House last week for a listening session. We're going to continue to engage with these angel parents who have lost their children as a result of the Democrats' open border policies. And every day we are reminded by their testimony, their stories, the lives of their loved ones, law-abiding American citizens who should still be with us when we are mass deporting illegal alien criminals from our nation's interior.
And that's exactly right. And she's saying the media is ignoring the story. The media is not talking about the dangers. And so the White House had to take the drastic step of printing out posters, putting them along the walkway, along the driveway. And so the media would be forced to discuss what's going on in this country as far as illegal immigration. It's really crazy, and it's really wild, and it's really bizarre. But luckily, we have President Donald Trump. We have his entire administration. We have his press secretary. We have Sean Duffy. We've got Kristi Noem. We've got Tom Homan. We've got Scott Bessent. We've got Marco Rubio. We've got everybody working diligently every single day. Probably the best administration ever assembled. Pete Hegseth at the Department of Defense. I mean, there's clips I didn't even get to. There's clips of Scott Bessent talking about how we're going to protect the economy and we'll never default. There's clips of what's her name, Brooke Rollins, who's just amazing as the agricultural secretary, talking about all the steps she's taken to make sure that American farmers are prosperous and that America is never going to have any kind of issue with its agriculture. She's cutting waste, fraud, and abuse out of the Department of Agriculture. I mean, it's incredible. The people that he's been able to put into place and the job that they're doing and the record-breaking pace that they're doing it at. Again, that's one of the things I was talking about in the potential new book I might be writing is the fast pace that Donald Trump is working with. And if you want to get things done, you got to get them done quickly. The faster you do something, the better for everybody. The faster you do something, the better for everybody. Speed is something that's very important. Now, we have a lot more to talk about. There's a lot more stuff going on, and we are going to have an after party. We had a little problem yesterday, but I think I worked out the technical difficulties with Rumble. So our after party begins in 3 minutes. And if you're not a member of our Kayetriot Club, you want to join the Kayetriot Club right now. Join the Kayetriot. It's $10 a month. Here's the dealio. For $10 a month, you get to hang out with us at least 3 times a week for our exclusive after party. It's more content. It's more of the show. It's more in-depth. It's more like personal stuff. We actually interact a lot more. I answer a lot of questions. I read the comments. We have quite a great community in there of Kayetriots, and you can be part of it. You can ask me a direct question, get a direct answer. I can ask you a direct question, get a direct answer. You can watch me go on X. You can watch, what were we doing? We were designing t-shirts the other day. It's a lot of fun. And it's just about 30, 40 minutes after the show, a couple times a week. And it's all part of the Kayetriot Club. You also get stickers. We have stickers. In fact, we just got some new ones in. We're going to start sending them out. We have all these great stickers, free stickers for Kayetriot Club members only, that you can only get, like I said, as a member of the Kayetriot Club, and a massive discount of 25% in the Mark Kaye shop. So if you're interested, go to Kayetriots.com right now. Go to Kayetriots.com. And all you have to do is join. It's $10 a month. If you join for a year, you get 2 months free. So you do the math, but it's really an incredible deal. And I'll be honest with you, most people, when they join the Kayetriot Club, they opt for the annual. We get a lot of people on monthly, but most, I would say it's about 50-50. But if you want to save a couple bucks and you want to get a direct access, do it now, because we are going to start this thing in just a few minutes. Everybody else, make sure you're subscribed too, because if you want to support the show, the best thing to do is listen to it, watch it. When we have new content, embrace it and consume it. We don't make these videos for our health. We don't make these videos, so that we look good. We make these videos so that you can get informed, so that you can stay entertained and inspired, so that you know what's going on, so you're enlightened as to the world and the threats around you and the people that are coming after you, and so that you have a game plan moving forward, some kind of plan, so that you can be ready, so that you can be vigilant, so you can be diligent, so you can be looking out for and prepared to battle back whenever a threat arises, because that's how we are all going to work together to save the Republic. Now, the after party begins in 3 minutes. There will be no music because, for whatever reason, my copyright-free music continues to get copyright claims. So it's 3 minutes of silence as we prepare for our after party.